Good morning, folks. Okay, I literally just rolled out of bed, jumped in the shower, and I'm on this, okay? So, last night in the video I made just before bedtime, I talked a little bit about um, information that Caitlin Clark would be back in practice next week. So, I did track down some information that I consider to be from a relatively uh, trustworthy source. And the information was given to ESPN by Stephanie White. So I know how we all feel about Stephanie White, but we're going to address a little bit of that in this video as well, okay? So I want to share the screen with you guys so I can show you what I've got. The other thing I'm going to do is play about a 5-minute clip from the Sue Bird video. For those people who have seen this, I apologize for the repetitiveness of this. And for those of you who dislike Sue Bird because she made some untoward comments about Caitlin Clark last year, which Caitlin Clark has gotten over, by the way, because she's a professional. And Sue Bird is a professional also, okay? We as fans need to step back a little bit here. And I am going to play the Sue Bird clip. And what I'm not asking you to do is listen to Sue Bird talk. I'm asking you, if you don't like her, to block her out. But what I'm asking you to do is listen to Caitlin Clark speak. And then we'll come back and we'll talk. Okay, so first, let's take a look at Caitlin Clark's return. So we're going to go here. I'm going to go here. And we're coming here. So ESPN, this is from August 13th, which is day before yesterday, which was after Stephanie White's initial update about the fact that Caitlin Clark was not yet practicing with the team. So if you go down here a little bit, we start out here with, if there was any question about how badly the Fever need Clark back running their offense, Tuesday's loss served as indisputable proof. Not only is Clark an extraordinary playmaker for her teammates, but Indiana's having lost both Ari McDonald and Sydney Colson to season-ending injuries only exacerbates the Fever's need for a healthy point guard. Totally agree. So, right here, the Fever's coaching and training staff haven't offered any clear updates about when number 22 will be returning to the court. The general belief is that she will likely make her return sometime in August, okay? But they have not narrowed down that date. Then we get down here and we start talking about what's left on the schedule, okay? And Ryan Rocco, who writes for ESPN, shared an interesting message. Now, their final season game is not until September 9th. So let's keep that in mind, okay? I'm going to read this to you. Indiana will play Washington on Friday at home, and at Connecticut, who has the worst record in the league, on Sunday. Then they have a week off before playing Minnesota twice, home against Seattle. You see the way the schedule finishes up there. Their final regular season game we'll have live on our air September 9th. Then we come down here. Now, that stretch where they have the week off is where Stephanie White reiterated to us today. That was as of August 13th. She's hoping Caitlin Clark returns to practice. So the belief is, and the feeling is, she goes back into practice when they have their week off. Stephanie talked yesterday about, hey, Caitlin has been running more, doing more on-court work. She is hoping that Caitlin returns to practice next week, would need multiple days in practice before she then gets into a game. So, given these comments, it seems that White and the Fever's training staff seem to have a pretty clear timeline on when Clark could be returning to the court. Of course, everything will depend on how number 22 is feeling once she returns to practice. But a return at some point in late August seems like the most likely scenario. So that's where we are. And that's what I'm going with. I'm going with that because it seems to be the overriding best information that we have out there with regard to Caitlin Clark's return. And now I'm going to play the Sue Bird interview, okay? A portion of it that just talks about how Clark has been handling her injury and how Clark handles the attention she gets, both positive and negative. And it is important that you listen to Caitlin Clark, okay? So hang on here. We're going back into the netherworld. All right, gang. Wait, can we get up there, please? Can you help me out here? We'll look at her. She's better to look at than some of the other stuff here. Okay, we're going to move on to plan A here. Hold on. Just give me one more minute. This is always a problem when you have as many tabs up as I have, but it is a fact of life for me on a daily basis. Let's try this again. All right, here we go. Now, again, please, gang, for those of you who don't like Sue Bird, please hold your nose and give a listen, because she's not the important part of this video, although she does a great job conducting this interview.
Like up across the WNBA, and then and they're also, when you don't play, there's a dip, like a substantial dip. So how does it impact your patience? You know what I mean? Like, you're coming back from this injury and you know this, everybody knows this, that when you play that changes.
Yeah.
I guess the better question is, how are you managing it so it doesn't impact your patience?
Yeah.
I know you want to be out there.
Definitely been hard.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go to every road game no matter what, whether I'm playing or not. It's hard because obviously I do feel this responsibility of being out there and playing, and not that I think there's a fear of any of this ever going away. That doesn't happen when LeBron or Steph get hurt. They're always going to be there.
No,
you know,
be back.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you do want to play. You want to give people something to cheer about or scream about, or, people spend so much time and money and resources to come and watch you play. And it's been cool to see people continue to show up, and for my teammates, whether they're fans of the Fever or just fans of myself, they're continuing to show up and support. And that's why I've been trying to take as much time as I can. I sign autographs for way longer when I'm hurt than when I'm active.
Yeah.
So, that's never something I wish for, but I still want to make as much time as I can for people, and, give them something that they can remember. And, I think that's also been really good for me too, is when I do go out before games and sign autographs and see all the young kids or fans or whoever's come to the games, it just gives me a really good perspective on everything, and maybe gives me a little bit of motivation, and just being thankful for everything that I have, and very thankful for my fans and just the fans of the WNBA, of how they can constantly continue to support and truly just want the best for me too at the end of the day. I think that's something that's really cool. So, I think early on with the first couple injuries, I was I need to get back. But I think my mom texted me after this last injury, and they know how hard it's been on me. But my mom was you've taken so much time for everybody else. You have to take time for yourself now. So just trying to do that the best I can too.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of chatter when it comes to you in the world of women's basketball. We know this. I think the beauty of what's happening now is that's all just noise and chatter. And at the core, there's definitely this understanding I think we all had of what you bring is going to bring more. And then those people are going to fall in love with the whole game in its entirety. And that's what's really great about the numbers, right? That has actually the proof is in that pudding right now, 100%. Which is great. But with the world we live in also comes social commentary, social media. And I was talking about this with Megan, and she really has like she wanted me to ask this question, basically. It's a great question. And it's like, you go on social media, you turn the TV, right? And the issue is all the negativity and how that can impact you. But Megan always brings up this point, and she's taught me this. The other issue is all the positive.
100%.
And what that can like, this like diluted sense of, and so really what it comes down to is, I think as an athlete, you know this, you have to get your confidence like from you.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, can your coaches help you build it and your parents help support you and teammates and all that? Yes. But like in the moment, in the game, when things aren't going well and you have to find it, it has to be within you. And that's where I think social media and really just the social commentary can really impact. So like, you have faced massive praise. You have faced harsh criticism. Like, how do you approach building your own confidence and really just staying true to that?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, I feel like this was something that when I was first working with this sports psychologist in my junior year, when everything really started blowing up, this was like one of the main things we talked about, like how it's literally like a drug. Like, you read all this stuff like about yourself and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. I'm so great. And then you play bad and it's like, oh no, like, so I feel like I have really good perspective on everything now. And like, sure, there's still hard moments, but like, I don't really care what people say. At the end of the day, like, I'm in a position where there's going to be, you know, criticism and there's going to be people that love me. Like, that's what happens when you're playing sport at the highest level. Like, that's how it goes for everybody, whether you're a football player, basketball player, baseball player, whatever it is.
Does your confidence though, like, does it just come from like?
It comes from yourself, 100%. Like, and I think for myself, like, I know how much time I've spent in the gym. I know the hours that I've put in. I know what I've been able to do over the course of my career. Like, so, you know, it has to come from yourself and obviously your teammates too and your coaches. But at the end of the day, like, you're the one stepping on the court and performing. So you have to be confident in your abilities and what you can do. Like, and for me, like, that's what I always fall back on. If I have a tough game or a tough day or a tough practice, it's like, you know, everybody has those days. Like, not everything's gonna be perfect, but you know, you've put in the time to be in these moments and you deserve to be in these moments. Like, just trust that. So
100%. Thanks to Nike for their partnership. Sometimes winning is hard.
Sometimes it's painful.
Oh yeah.
But Nike knows.
Hold on.
You step on the court, it's
Once
what
again
you're here to do. From the champions to the underdogs.
From the top of their class prospects to the little brothers finally dunking on their older brother in the driveway, we all have the same goal: win. Nike provides the best gear, products, and stories to get you from the first quarter to the last, even when you feel like you have nothing.
Okay, gang. So aside from a little technical difficulty, which is me, and I will get used to this, but I got a bunch of new equipment, so things are really kind of, you know, haphazard for the next couple days. I think it's important that we pay attention to what Caitlin Clark is saying, because at the end of the day, a lot of us, and myself included, because it's part of the gig, right, is we speak for her sometimes, and we have an opportunity to listen to her when she does an interview. So for the people who say, you know, Caitlin Clark just needs to sit out and teach the Fever a lesson or to teach the WNBA brass a lesson, that's not Caitlin Clark, and that's not where she wants to be, and that's not why that's not how she thinks. That's number one. You know, Caitlin Clark, from a very young age, has wanted to play in the WNBA, and that is where she is going to play. Come hell or high water, okay? She will, you know, rise above all of this junk. I mean, you know, I think as fans, we owe her better than that, than to suggest that she quit or she quit the WNBA and go play in Europe, where no one chooses to play in Europe over the WNBA unless they're European, okay? And I will tell you this, there are European players who want to play in the WNBA. The competition is not the same there as it is here. We saw that in the Brazil exhibition game, okay? And not only did we see that the competition wasn't the same, but we watched as the Brazil players lined up so she could sign their T-shirts, okay? We saw and heard what the Brazil coach said about how she has elevated and changed the sport. That is Caitlin Clark. And she intends to not only survive the WNBA's growth pains, but transcend them. And she can take this league to whatever height she chooses to take it to. Her career is just beginning here, okay? And this is not the first time she's going to be injured, all right? LeBron James wasn't injured one time. He's been injured more than once. Steph Curry's been injured more than once. Almost every NBA player, every sports player suffers a series of injuries over an entire career. And her career is just beginning. She is learning early on what she needs to do to get back on the court. And while she's off the court, to learn how to survive not being on the court. So let's give the girl some credit, okay? Now, a couple other notes before I take off, because I definitely will be making another video this evening. It will be another later video because I am working till 6 o'clock. It's one of those nights again. But I have heard that the WNBA Players Association has rejected the offer from the league, the financial sharing offer from the league. But I'm not going to do a hot take on that. I really want to look at that. We have the other talking heads out there already weighing in on that about what a disaster it is. And, they're turning down millions of dollars and blah, 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 blah. And I need to look into that because right now, this collective bargaining agreement does not expire until after the playoffs. I believe it's October, okay? And there is always this back and forth bantering between the two sides, no matter what sport it's in, or even if it's just a railroad union, okay, dealing with the brass. Nobody gives in first, okay? No one just accepts what's being offered the first go around, okay? There's a lot of posturing and a lot of politics and a lot of gameplay, and that goes on. And so I'm going to look into this today so that I can talk more intelligently about it this evening. And I will also be monitoring the game this evening. And we will see where it goes from here. But again, I'm not the master of the hot take. That's not my background. It's not my inclination. It is my inclination to do research before I come on, unless I'm going off on a rant, which I have done. So in closing, I got one more comment, okay? And I'm sorry again, I didn't get to the question and answers from the community, but I will. I'll get to those. I promise I will get to those this weekend. All right, the weekend's coming. And there was one or two comments, and it's been made over the last couple of days. There were a couple of people over the last weekend, and then somebody else during this week that says we just need to address the issue that Stephanie White is throwing games. Look, and I know that I am not a fan of the way that Stephanie White coaches the Indiana Fever. Okay. I've been watching sports for years, and I have not liked the way several managers have coached Boston teams. I thought Bobby Valentine with the Red Sox was a nut. And as it turns out, he was a nut. Okay. He had a team that on paper couldn't lose, and they finished in last place. They were a disaster, okay? But I don't believe that Bobby Valentine threw any games. Bobby Valentine was a nut, okay? I'm not a fan of Stephanie White as the coach. And as I've said, she signed for this season. So who knows what happens with Stephanie White? I don't believe she's coach of the year. I don't believe she's even close. And, that, however, can change. I mean, let's throw this out there. What if Caitlin Clark does come back the end of August and leads her team to the championship? Is Stephanie White not in the running for Coach of the Year? Oh, I think she would be. I think she would be, whether she deserves it or not, just by virtue of the fact that they managed to do the impossible when they haven't had their star player for the majority of the season. So, let's get real here. I don't believe for a nanosecond that Stephanie White is throwing games, and I am not going down that path. There are paths that I will not go down, okay? And I am, for me, when you're accusing somebody of that, you need to have what is called evidence and proof that she is actually doing that. Now, bad substitutions, failure to blow, and call for timeouts, that's not evidence to me. That's evidence of a coach who is not a great coach. That's what it's evidence of. And I have stated that I don't think she's a great coach. I think they have been winning in spite of Stephanie White. And I believe that the credit goes to the players. And I also don't agree with Stephanie White that when they lose, it's all on the players and she never takes responsibility. That's another thing that bothers me about her. But I'm not going to sit here and say that Stephanie White is throwing games. Nope, that's not happening. So that's what I've got this morning. And I think it's fairly positive news that the Fever has a week off. And that is when Caitlin Clark will be back in practice. And hopefully, once she's back in practice, she's feeling good and things go well. And then she will be back on the court the end of August. As I've said, their season does not end until September 9th. That gives her enough games under her belt to be ready for the playoffs. So I will talk to you guys tonight. I promise. I'm going to look into the CBA issue and we can talk about that later. But in the meantime, I hope you all have a fantastic day.